Start over. Hello and welcome to Safeguard, and thanks for watching. On this show we're going to approach topics of interest to your safety, whether it's safety in your home, in your car, but mainly it's things that the police or other people can help us out with. And today I've got Scott Borden with me, who has 32 years of experience with the State Highway Patrol and is now the police chief of the Rio Grande Campus Police. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike.
Today we're going to talk about what to do if you are pulled over by a law enforcement officer, whether it's Sheriff's Department, State Patrol, or City Police. What are your rights and what are the powers and rights of law enforcement? The reason we're doing this is to combat some of this other information that a lot of people find on YouTube or other places, and they come up with their own reality maybe of what the law should or might be as it pertains to them. Some of those things might be they think they are free inhabitants, where they don't think that they are a citizen of the United States, even though they're living here and taking advantage of everything that we offer, and sovereign citizens, which I'm not sure exactly what the difference between those things are. But anyway, we'll start with if you were stopped by a law enforcement officer if you're walking. I don't know if there's any difference between walking and driving, but say we're walking somewhere and, I don't know, somebody has called and said there's a suspicious guy, and I'm that guy.
I would say the number one thing that you always want to do is don't cause the officer any alarm. You'll always hear, if you watch the TV shows with cops and stuff, is that they're always going to say, "Show me your hands." So if an officer walks up to you, just face them, make sure that your hands are visible. I would not make any quick movements. A lot of times you'll start to reach for your pocket real quick to get your ID out, but wait for them to ask for what you want or what they want. So basically just face them, keep your hands free. Wait for them to ask you. At some point they'll say, "Do you have any ID with you?" Just say, "It's in my right rear pocket, it's in my left rear pocket," and then reach for it slowly.
Just like the guy that was at the gas station where he got shot. The officer asked him for ID, which I guess it was sitting in the car, and so he dove back into the car, and I guess he thought he was going for something else.
Well, and there's always that fine line between, the officer's trying to fill the need for safety. He's looking for quick movements. That's looking at the world through his eyes. The person who stopped in the vehicle or walking down the road is thinking, "I want to get this quickly for the officer. That way I can be on my way." And he's thinking that, I'm cooperative and.
Well, you're nervous too, as the person being stopped.
Yes, and it's, that's the thing I try to do over my career is, there was that old corny saying, and try to put yourself in the, in the other person's position or walk while they're walking is, they're nervous. Most of the time they're going to move too quickly because they're trying to be too cooperative because they want to give the appearance they're cooperative, or they will just be totally uncooperative. And and that's when it usually goes downhill. I don't have to do that. Okay, say if you're all right, if you're walking, do you have to produce your ID? Yes, you have to. There's a Ohio Revised Code. You have to show your ID to a police officer. It's lawful for a police officer to identify the person, so you have to be able to identify yourself. Now, obviously,
even if I'm not doing anything wrong. Or I believe I'm not doing anything.
Well, and that's and that's a line. Another line you get into is typically it's in thirds. Is either the person knows they did something wrong, and they're going to react because they know they did something wrong, 2, they feel like they didn't do anything wrong and they're just being hassled, or they probably did something wrong and they just don't want to deal with it. You know, I don't have to deal with you. You know, I'm a sovereign citizen, or I have no reason to deal with you. I'm just not going to do anything. But you do have to show your ID, because you got to understand that society is, you mean, if you're a criminal that just, you know, committed a serious offense, if it was just a society where you could just say, hey, I don't have to tell you who I am, and you've got 12 warrants on you for, you know, felonies all over the world, you know, it would be too easy to say, I'm not going to show you my ID. So you lawfully have to show your ID.
Mm-hmm. What is a lawful ID?
Well, there's the driver's license, obviously. There's identification cards, and there are many times over my career that the person doesn't have any ID, or they don't have anything with them.
Yeah, I might be going to the gym or going for a run, and I don't feel like taking my whole wallet with me.
And there's no problem like that. And typically, if you're just someone going for a run, I mean, you would hope that the officer would be able to differentiate between, because typically if you're walking down the road, the only time you're going to get, if you're out on the highway where it says no pedestrians or no hitchhikers, you know, you're always going to get a police officer that's going to stop you on a highway, because one, it's illegal to hitchhike on certain highways. And also, they'll stop because you maybe broke down. I mean, if your car broke down and you have to walk 2 miles to a gas station, you'd want a police officer to stop and, and give you a ride. And they have a right for their own protection to find out who you are and get your ID and everything. So if you don't have your ID with you, you know, you're just jogging, something like that, you know, you probably wouldn't even go that far in the conversation, but they can run your social security number, they can run your name, your date of birth. And that's if you don't have your ID with you. If you don't even have an ID, they will go through your birth date and everything. Mostly all they want to do is find out that you don't have any warrants on you or anything like that, and you're not wanted. So typically, as long as you give something that's valid, you'll be on your way.
Okay. So I'm pulled over in my car. What do I have to do that they ask me to do? What do they lawfully have maybe reason to do, or, you know?
Do you want to go straight from just what you should do once you're stopped?
Okay. They've come up behind me, the lights are flashing, I've pulled off the road, or maybe how long should it be till I pull off the road?
Once they put the lights on?
Right.
I would,
because sometimes, I don't know, hate to admit it, I've been pulled over 40 times, but there's been times where I thought, well, you know, I'm going to go down to this crossroad, get off the highway so this guy doesn't have to stand in traffic.
That is, to be honest, the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
Because officers are trained to pick the spot of the stop. So they should find, when they put their lights on, a lot of times they'll even follow you a little bit and you wonder, why are they following me? You know, a little bit of that is calling in, you know, your tags on the radio and stuff like that to make sure it's not stolen or the driver's not wanted. But a lot of times it may be to wait for a lighted spot or a wider spot in the road, so it's safer for you and them. Once you start driving after they put the lights and you start making turns and picking, because the one thing they tell you,
I wouldn't make more than one turn. I'd probably put on my turn signal saying that, yes, I'm going to turn or pull off.
Well,
is that not a good idea?
No, the way they're the way that they're taught is don't let the car pick the spot, because in their minds then you're picking a spot that you're going to do something bad to them. In their minds, they're picking a spot to stop you where it's lighted if it's dark, if it's daylight where it's wide, where it's safe for everybody. But once you turn off or you keep going and you pull your spot, in the back of their mind they're thinking, this is the place they're taking me to do whatever they're going to do. And
because, I don't know, this past year I got pulled over and it was within a quarter mile of my house, and it was just at the turn, and he turned on his lights right at about the time I was going to make the turn. So I just went up the hill, turned in my driveway, and we'll just sit in front of my house now.
Did he say anything, or was he good with that? Or?
No, he was okay.
Yeah, once you probably explained to them it was your house.
Yeah, it's like, this is where I live.
Yeah, okay. So that would be good. It just, you know, if you're out on a road and you start getting off on exit ramps and turning and stuff like that, they think you're leading them down for a trap or something. So, you know, and it may sound paranoid, but when you're a police officer, you know.
Right, you do this stuff every day, and so there's a lot more considerations.
There's consideration, and, you know, you got your family, you want to go home to your family, you don't want to get hurt, and like I said, it may sound paranoid, but you have to sort of have that mindset, you know, and that, you know, 99.9% of the time, it's just like you, being a good citizen, turning off, just trying to find a good area, but where you're nervous a little bit, they are too.
Rather than being on the 4-lane, let's get off on the side road.
Yes, and that's where, as a police officer, you have to have enough appreciation of the person, is once you get up there and realize that they seem to be a pretty good person and genuine, and why they told you why they turned off, that you should be able to quickly grasp, you know, they were trying to help the situation, not hurt it. And then
so I've seen enough of these videos where, you know, a car on the highway just plows into yours or their car,
and the lights, you would think would be a deterrence. But
everybody slow down, move over.
Move over, but
and that's why we're doing this show, is so that people or the public can get an appreciation for your point of view, and also have an understanding of what law enforcement officers expect of them.
Well, and this is a great opportunity to talk about that, because, you know, most everything in life, they always talk about, whether it's marriage or anything, your kids or anything, the problems occur through miscommunication. And a lot of times, if you watch videos of incidents that happen around the country or on the cop shows and stuff, you know, most of it's miscommunication, and that would be a prime example. You know, I want to stop you here because I feel it's safe, but you feel like it's safer to go here. You're not causing any trouble. You're trying to help the situation, but it's incumbent upon me to understand that you were trying to help it, not hurt it. Now, the miscommunication could be if I, you know, come up to your car and start yelling and screaming at you. You know, I put my lights on, I'm a police officer, I told you to stop here and you didn't do what I said. You know, that's where it goes south, and that shouldn't happen. So. Okay,
so I've pulled off.
Okay.
Now he comes to the side of my car. Should I get out of the car and say, hey, what do you need?
Stay in the car unless they ask you to get out. The best thing to do is just to put your hands up on the steering wheel, because they want to see your hands. The first thing as they're walking up, they want to see where your hands are at. And you'll see them ducking their heads around and stuff, because even if you have one hand on the steering wheel, they're trying to see where that other hand is, whether it's on, you know, your lap or between the seats. So make sure that your hands are visible. Stay in the car. Don't start grabbing for your registration and stuff. Wait for them to ask you.
Should I turn on the interior lights?
If it's nighttime, the only thing I would say about that is that's movements of your hands, is reaching around, and they want to see that your hands are clear. They've got flashlights, so they're going to be able to see, and it's safer for you if your hands are up on the steering wheel. They show the flashlight, your hands are there. As they're walking up, if you're reaching for stuff, that's the first sign that gets them a little bit nervous.
Okay.
And
you don't want to make a guy with a gun nervous.
You do not. And they don't, you know, I did it for 30-some years, is, you know, you just want to quickly put yourself at ease and put the person at ease as much as you can. I know that sounds weird when you're stopping somebody for a traffic violation, you want to put them at ease, but that should be one of the goals of the officer, is, you know, if you get stopped for a minor violation, it's an event that it's going to happen or needs to happen, and, you know, it needs to be professional and non-confrontational, and to put you at ease, and, you know.
So should I turn the car off?
They will tell you to do that if they want to. A lot of times the stuff that you see on TV about stepping out of the car. Now there's times they'll have you get out of the car if you've got warrants on you or something. If they stop you and you've got a felony warrant for someplace. That's most of the time they'll have you step out of the car. That's probably the only time they'll have you step out of the car.
Unless they suspect DUI.
Well, they won't on DUI. They won't have you get out of the car. They want to keep you in the car until they determine that there's an odor of, you know, alcoholic beverage or some type of, you know, narcotics. if at some point they feel like you're under the influence, and you may be, they may have you shut the engine off just in case you decide to drive off or anything, because, you know.
I've heard some people turn it off, put the keys on the dash or something.
It doesn't really hurt, but then that's that hand movement of thing. And the thing I got to emphasize is just avoid hand movement. The officers will always tell you what you need to do, but then we go back to what we talked about nerves. Is if you're a good citizen and you just feel like, you know, maybe your brother's a police officer or your sister-in-law or something, you want to be as cooperative as you can. And a lot of people really, I mean, there's people that want to be uncooperative, but there's a lot of people that really want to be cooperative, and they think by, well, I'll turn my dash light on, I'll put my keys off, I'll grab my
so you're
license out, you're scurrying
all
all around, and you're actually making the guy more or the gal more nervous than what they would have been. So they will tell you, get out of the car if they want you to get out of the car. They'll tell you to turn the engine off if they want you to. They'll tell you to get your registration out of your glove box when they want you to. They'll tell you to get your license. And typically they'll tell you to, you know, get your license, and that way they can watch you. Your hands are up here, they see you get it out, they know it's coming out, and, you know, the whole event should be, you know, as non-nerve-wracking for both persons as it can get. So.
How about on a motorcycle? I ride motorcycle. Should I take my helmet off? I usually keep my registration under the seat.
Same thing. Get off. When you get off, I would take the helmet off. You know, put it.
Do I just sit there?
Yeah, just slowly take it off. Yeah, turn it off. Motorcycles, I liked when they stepped off. I mean, that's going to be an individual officer thing. You know, if you try to get out of a car with on a traffic stop, probably 99.9% of the time the officer's going to say, please get back in the car. Motorcycle, you know, I personally would rather they put the kickstand down, get off, take their helmet off, face you, you know, you can see their hands. Yeah,
because if you're nervous and you're on a motorcycle and they tell you to get off of it, you may not put the side stand down. You may not put the side stand down. Boom.
Well, and two, you know, you're walking up there and guy zooms off while he's sitting there, so it's almost better if you...
So it's kind of the opposite thing.
Opposite thing, because they'll zoom off on you, so... But like I said, just to emphasize, is just, they call it furtive movements, is, you know, when your hands are just all over the place, and that's the #1 thing to avoid.
Okay. So what do I have to do? What are the have-tos and the optionals?
The have-to one is you have to identify yourself. If the officer asks for your driver's license or any ID, you have to give them information that identifies you. You know, one of the things that comes up all the time, and we've discussed earlier, is getting out of the vehicle. Some people say, I don't have to get out of the vehicle. But if the officer has a lawful reason that he can articulate to get you out of, to ask you to get out of the car, you have to get out of the vehicle. And the examples that I always give is, you know, you'll hear people say, well, I don't have to. They can't make me get out of the vehicle. But, you know, just imagine if you had people with no license, you had people with 15 warrants on them, you had people that were so drunk that they shouldn't be behind the wheel. If it was that easy that you could just say, I'm not getting out of the car, then everybody would just do that. So, you know, typically if you stop somebody for, you know, a headlight out, you don't have any reason to suspect that there's a weapon in the vehicle, that they've been drinking. You're not going to get somebody out of the car just to get them out of the car. You know, my thing was you really don't want people standing along the road with cars whizzing by unless you absolutely have to have them out there. And the only reason you most of the time want them out there is you know, if they've been drinking and you had to do the field sobriety test. If you've got indication there are drugs in the car, you would get them away from the car while it was searched, but you'd still put them in a safe place. So, or if you had a warrant and you had to get them out of the car and arrest them, but you'd still take them away from the road. So typically, just because you can, you're not going to say get out of the car and then put you at risk standing next to the road. So you do have to show ID. You have to get out, you know, should they, you know, ask you to, and they can articulate. So
how about the passengers?
Passengers can be a little tricky. They need to identify themselves also, but
if asked.
If asked. And
because I was a driver, maybe I was speeding. So I would be the only one that would be in question of breaking the law, right? Would my wife still have to, or girlfriend, or whoever it is?
Well, typically, what you get into is if you have a carload of people, and a lot of times you'll just check the IDs to make sure that there's not warrants, because a lot of times people that have warrants on them won't be the driver. They're hiding because that makes them too public. There's more of a chance that they're going to get stopped. Let me see your license. But if you're sitting in the right rear passenger seat, you may have 7 felony warrants on you, and
they can legally ask you for
they can legally ask you for your ID.
Okay.
But like I said, there's a lot of discretion that you would hope. If you're a carload of people going to the zoo, and you're probably not going to ask for all the kids and everybody's IDs.
It was 2 a.m. and I'm coming back from Athens.
If there's a carload of people, and then depending on the time and stuff, they might run. And it takes a matter of seconds to run those. They've got the computers in their car now, so they could grab your license and 3 people in the car and run those in probably less than a minute and be back, and you're on your way. So the thing in society that you got to weigh is, while it's inconvenient that you may be stopped for something, and maybe some checks are made, is if that other car down the road is someone under suspension, someone's drinking, someone has a bunch of warrants on them, and they're a thief or something.
Well, you told me about how they've picked up some of these other people on John Wayne Gacy, or
there's some good examples. I mean, and that's another good topic is people. If you want me to give you some examples, is by law you're only required to have one headlight. But you see people and you hear people are stopped all the time for just having one headlight. Now, the main reason for that is a lot of people don't realize that the one headlight that is out is out. So if the other headlight goes out, then you have no headlights. You're going down the road. So that's the reason. Taillights, same reason. That's one reason you stop them. And most people will say, I really appreciate it. I didn't know my headlight was out. I'm glad the other one didn't go out. Some people will say, yeah, I knew it was out. I just needed a reminder. This will make me go fix it. Then you'll have some people that say, why are you wasting my time? I'm only required by law to have one headlight. And they'll know that and say that. What you run into sometimes is what the State Patrol calls it is looking beyond the plate, is the original stop. Is, you could...
So like a front license plate issue.
Front license plate. A lot of people don't realize, if we go back, Timothy McVeigh that did the Oklahoma City bombing, there was an Oklahoma state trooper that was on his way to the bombing site. On his way there, they called him off, told him to disregard that there was enough people there and stuff like that. So as he was turning around to go back to his home station, a vehicle passes him with one license plate. Now, one license plate is not going to cause a crash. I mean, the law says you have to have 2 license plates, but...
In those particular states?
And Ohio's one of them, and Oklahoma, and there's some states that you require to have 2. And I'll give you a couple other reasons a little bit later, but he actually stopped him for having one license plate. Did not realize it was the bomber. Actually got him out of the car. He had I believe a loaded .45, so he arrested him for having the weapon and locked him up for the illegal weapon, locked him up for not having a license, and then later that evening when they started having pictures that people were doing the sketch drawings of what they thought the suspect looked like, he realized that that was the guy that he had locked up in the jail. So while you can say one license plate, I mean, that's just an example of somebody because of the license plate. Now, the license plate thing, besides the fact that it's in Ohio Revised Code, is, a lot of people that intentionally do their tags wrong. They'll buy a car, put somebody else's tags on it, stuff like that, to avoid having to register their car, title their car. That's the minor thing. Another thing is what a lot of people don't realize is sometimes before bank robberies, people that are sexual predators who are stalking women and people, they will take the license plates off their car. They'll go to Walmart or someplace, take a license plate or find a license plate, and they'll put that on the rear of their vehicle so that if a witness spots them, that's the tag number that they give to the police. So that's why police, a lot of times when you sit there and think, why do they bother people with one license plate? That's one of the reasons.
Okay, say I bought a car from West Virginia that doesn't have the mount. What can I do? I mean, it might take me a week or two to get that.
Yeah, you're not going to get a ticket for that typically. As long as they know, they stop you and you can articulate that, they're going to give you an opportunity. They'll give you a warning, give you an opportunity to get it. Now, if they stop you and it's the tag from a former owner of the car, then you've got a problem. And if you, for example, like we just said, you take the car from the tag from Walmart and you have it on a different car, then you're going to do that. Another example is a taillight. Ted Bundy, the mass murderer in Florida that murdered a lot of co-ed women, was stopped by a California state trooper for having a taillight out, and that's how he was apprehended. Minor things, son of Sam, the serial killer, was because of a traffic ticket, an old traffic parking ticket. So while some of these things seem, minor, turn signals, brake lights, I mean, how many times you've been going down the road and someone in front of you turns without using their turn signal and you almost hit them in the rear?
Almost weekly.
Almost weekly. So a lot of times you'll stop people, and you'll either give them a warning or a ticket, but then you'll hear, that was a minor, that's a minor traffic offense, or
right.
It really wasn't.
Well, sometimes I like to have a light on my car so I can pull them over myself.
Well, it's very frustrating because, when that happens, someone changes lanes in front of you, someone doesn't have brake lights, doesn't use their turn signals. What's the first thing you shake your fist at them and you say, where are the cops when you need them? And then the other half, a majority of the people will, when you stop somebody like that, it's, well, don't you have anything else better to do? Aren't there any criminals out there? So.
All right, so to sum up, to make everyone's life easier, just be cool.
Be cool.
Slow movements, make sure your hands are visible, and follow instructions, be polite, and everything should go well.
And if it doesn't, I'm not going to say every police officer is perfect. I'd like to say 99.9% of them try to do the right thing. If you don't feel you're guilty, you feel like something was wrong in the stop, go through the court system, and each department will have a complaint system, and that's the way to handle it. Yelling, screaming, getting in a confrontation with the officer is never going to turn out well, so just let the system work. Okay.
Well, hopefully that has maybe cleared up some things for some people and been good information for you. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next month.